and welcome to the 109th edition of Marex Maritime News. The headlines on Monday, 14th of March 2022. Crews told to abandon ships in Ukraine. ICS warns shortfall of global workforce amid Russian-Ukraine crisis. What impact does the growing offshore wind industry have on worker safety? Container availability is likely to worsen. MAERSK to buy 730,000 tons of methanol bunker by 2025. Some ship owners have begun to ask their crew to abandon ships stuck off the coast of Ukraine as Russia's invasion of its neighbor reached the end of its second week.
I would today like to speak regarding the ongoing situation in Ukraine, with Russia waging war over Ukraine. The UN's International Maritime Organization has announced that it will convene an extraordinary council session to address the impact for the safety of our seafarers and shipping at large. As we speak, there are confirmed reports of approximately 120 odd ships that are stuck in and around Ukraine and in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. And there have been reports of attacks on merchant ships. This has caused a major impact on shipping as well as the safety of our seafarers. It is rather unfortunate that our seafarers, after going through the hardships of COVID, the restrictions of sign-off, restrictions of sign-on, have now having to undergo this new crisis that the world is seeing. We wish our seafarers all the very best. We hope that they stay safe, and we hope that this upcoming meeting has some kind of respite for our seafarers.
A lot of talk is going on about the students who had to be evacuated from Ukraine during the Ukraine-Russia war crisis. But there is another sector which is less talked about, equally important if not more, that is the shipping sector, which is also badly affected. More so among shipping is the seafarers who drive the shipping segment with lot of grit and lot of challenges. There are ships which are stuck in Ukraine and for cargo, and there are seafarers on board. Many of them have Indian seafarers on board who had to be rescued. So I must congratulate the Indian government, the Indian Embassy in Ukraine, and the Director General of Shipping, Mr. Amitabh Kumar, who took a very bold step along with the owners and the managers, Fleet Management Limited, to get the crew evacuated from two of their ships which were stuck in Nikolaev port in Ukraine. It was not an easy task because their safety was a big concern for everyone. And as you know, when we talk many things about sea, the most important thing is the safety of life at sea. So in doing so, not only the owners and the managers and the shipping community in general are aware of the risk that is involved when you have to evacuate the crew from a war-like area. And in that respect, I must congratulate the bold step taken by the owners, the managers, Fleet Management Limited, the Indian government, the Indian Embassy in particular in Ukraine, and the DG Shipping in overseeing their evacuation right from the gangway till they reached home safely to their homeland in India. Every mile, every kilometer, every inch was monitored, security plan was made, risk assessment was made, and it was overseen, followed by the offices in Hong Kong and in Mumbai to see that the entire crew reached home safely to their loved ones. I take this opportunity to thank everyone involved in this operation to see that the Indian seafarers came back home safely.
The International Chamber of Shipping has warned that current supply chain disruption is set to be compounded by a shortfall in the global shipping workforce due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
The Russian crisis is set to play considerable havoc within the shipping industry, especially the supply chain. Not only are there ships which are currently loaded with cargoes to and from Russia, which will be affected by the embargo by rest of the world, but also assets owned by the Russians and linked to the Russians will also be embargoed. So you are taking away a sizable chunk from the market. Compounded to that, about 15% of the global fleet is crewed by Russian and Ukrainian seafarers. And there is no way that rest of the world can pick up this slack because they just do not have the reserves, and we are talking big numbers. So is it now a case of cutting the nose to spite the face? Time will tell. But we are definitely there for interesting times because queries have already started going out to the other crew management, other nations which supply crew or maritime labor to pick up this slack. And it's not easy. It's not easy. So let's wait and watch. Interesting times ahead.
With the rapid progression of the offshore wind industry in the United States and across the globe, it is essential to understand its impact on the people who will build, repair and maintain these installations. Like all energy sectors, the wind energy industry is one filled with risk, from testing and production of wind turbine components through to transport, installation and lifetime servicing of turbines. Occupational safety and health risk abound at every step of the process. The number of people working in the wind industry is rapidly growing, surpassing 1 million in 2014 and projected to surpass 2 million by 2030. Adds further cause for attention to be paid to safety. Most frequent injuries relate to falling objects, particularly during the installation of turbines, as well as risk of working at height across the life of turbines. There are additional challenges related to sea transport and operations, example, waves, drowning, loss of moorings, anchor, etc., along with remoteness and long working hours. An important aspect to improving safety includes documenting accidents. For its part, Renewable UK is hosting the Renewable Industry Safety Exchange, which seeks to facilitate the collection and dissemination of safety incidents, an example of best practices throughout the global wind industry. One example offering at least partial data from a pan-national level is the G9 Offshore Wind Health and Safety Association. G9's annual incident report indicates that in 2014, among the 944 reported offshore incidents, 95 required first aid and 89 were medical treatment injuries. Improvements in the reliability of technology, therefore, has a direct impact on safety. Fewer breakdowns mean fewer repairs. Equally improved diagnostic through smart use of data can further reduce breakdowns, limit the severity of faults when they do occur, and reduce servicing. A critical element to ensuring a safe working environment is training, the aim of which is assuring that workers are competent, well supported, and safe. This awful war is expected to add to the stressed nature of global container supply chains, bringing yet more inflation, disruptions, and delays.
The movement of laden cargo containers is the blood that is needed in the veins of supply chain management. Till the pandemic, all was going well. Then, with the coming of the pandemic, it caused a disarray which continues till today. Let's look at the start of this crisis. When the initial outbreak of COVID-19 forced China and many of its neighbors into a national lockdown at the end of 2019, and at the start of 2020, the South Asia and Southeast Asia region's massive manufacturing sector shut down. Cargo ships that were already en route out of Asia dropped off hundreds of thousands of containers full of goods in ports across the Americas. But because of pandemic restrictions, they couldn't load those boxes back up with new products to send back. Instead, the containers piled up in the ports and inland rail depots. By the end of 2020, we could see that some trade came roaring back, unable to spend their money on in-person services. The consumers dumped their disposable income into buying manufactured goods. Obviously, the global supply chains sputtered back to life, and then the overwhelmed ports like California's massive Los Angeles and Long Beach struggled to load and unload containers fast enough to keep up with the crush of ships waiting just offshore. Many ships, already running behind schedule because of congestion at the ports, decided to leave their empty containers rather than bring them back on board. As containers continued to pile up at the major import centers, that means the major export hubs were not getting any empty boxes, and the crisis started. One might say that there are not many containers in the world. No, that's not the answer. It's that the containers are in the wrong spots. There has been a growing imbalance in the last 16 months, and what we are seeing now is a buildup of containers in places where they're not supposed to be. So shipping containers, being the lifeblood of world trade, are virtually needed in every product. With this global shortage of containers lessen, or will it just sort itself out? It has been bad for the past 16 months since the quarter of 2020, and it is likely to worsen as the availability of new containers at huge prices is a big hindrance, and those having stock of second-hand containers are holding back inventories for selling in the hope of getting good prices. But this applies to the short trades, which is dominated by non-vessel operating common carriers. The main trade lanes rely on the large mainline operators who are still using the inventories only for high-freighted trade lanes. If this trend continues, the tunnel ahead is still dark.
AP Molar Maersk AS has partnered with 6 energy companies to jumpstart the green methanol market and help the shipping giant ditch fossil fuels. Maersk will be able to buy at least 730,000 tons of methanol per year by the end 2025. That's equal to roughly 3.5% of its current oil use and vastly higher than the world's current global methanol production of about 30,000 tons. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching. See you next Monday.